Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Administration and Public Works Committee. We have a quorum. And could I get a motion for the approval of the minutes of the April 8th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Minutes?
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any additions, corrections? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the National Drinking Water Week. We have proclamations and awards. And Mr. Stonebeck, Director Stonebeck, I'll turn that over to you. And Ms. Briggs.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Laura Biggs. I'm the Superintendent of Construction for the Utilities Department. And I would like to announce that National Drinking Water Week is May 4th through May 10th. The purpose of National Drinking Water Week is to celebrate water by recognizing the essential role it plays in our daily lives. For the last several years, the city has organized public outreach activities to draw awareness to our drinking water source, which is Lake Michigan, during this celebration. This year, Evanston has chosen the theme of 100 Years of Water in recognition of our happy anniversary of providing clean, reliable, safe, filtered drinking water to Evanston residents. The city has many activities planned for National Drinking Water Week, and we encourage all of our residents to visit the city website for more information about these. This year, we held two art contests in honor of National Drinking Water Week, and all of our participants will receive a reusable water bottle. The top artwork is going to be displayed at the Evanston Public Library during National Drinking Water Week, and in addition, all of the submitted artwork will be displayed at a reception at the library on Sunday, May 11th from 3 to 4:30 p.m., where there will also be a short talk on the 100-year history of filtered drinking water in Evanston. All of our top art contest participants will also be recognized. So now I would like to present the winners of our contest. For the third grade art contest, we had 137 entries this year.
Wow.
Many of them were actually quite good, and the best 15 entries were selected for our online voting. Each of these top 3 awards carries a prize of 4 beach tokens to Evanston Beaches this summer, and the remaining 12 honorable mentions will receive an award certificate. So here are our top awards. The People's Choice Award that we give out is determined by online voting, and the winner of this award is Olivia Pittman from Lincoln School. So Olivia, could you come up here, please? Our second award is selected by the mayor. Our Mayor's Choice Award for this year for the third grade contest were 2 students who collaborated on one piece of artwork, Sophia Glantz and Emily Coker from Orrington Elementary School. They each get a plaque. Okay, so you're Emily.
Turn around.
And finally, for our third grade contest, the artwork that most embodied the spirit of water was selected for an award. The Water Spirit Award was also a collaboration of 2 students from Orrington Elementary School, Ella Ng and Emily Tran. I know. We also had a middle school photography contest. We have 2 awards to give out for that. The winner of our online voting People's Choice Award the winner of our People's Choice Award was determined by online voting, and that is Emma Johnston, a 6th grader from Nichols Middle School. And our Mayor's Choice Award, who is Bella Hubbard, also a 6th grader from Nichols Middle School. The artwork is on display right now in the lobby here, so please take an opportunity to look at it. It's awesome. And join us at our May 11th celebration or reception at 3 o'clock to view all of the artwork and help us celebrate 100 years of safe drinking water. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Biggs and Director Stoneback, and congratulations to all our awardees. Okay, items for discussion tonight. We begin with the City of Evanston's payroll through April 6th. $2,627,609.88. Is there a motion for approval?
Except, Madam Chair, I think it's $609.
I'm sorry, did I?
$2,624,609.
Yeah, it is 9.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say 8?
4.
Oh, 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, it's $2,624,609.88.
Okay.
$624,609.88. And it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bills for the City of Evanston through April the 29th, $3,637,765.55.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, did everyone get a chance to look at the bills list? Are there any comments or anything on that? If not, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Alderman Brathwaite, will you take A 3.1?
Oh, we're going to go the other way. That's right.
Yes.
Confuse us now.
Oh, he wasn't ready. I'm sorry. He wasn't ready.
No, it's fine.
It's all right. Item A 3.1, approval of renewal agreement with Open Kitchens, Inc. for 2014 Summer Foods Program.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, comments, or additions? If not, all in
I just
favor?
have one quick comment.
Okay.
I think, and I brought this up last year when we came up, it's a wonderful program. I think it's funded by the federal government, so it isn't public tax dollars. But, you know, I do think that this is one of those opportunities for a local Evanston business to get involved with the bid. So I don't want to rehash it, but I just, whether it's Kurt's Cafe or another one of our organizations to provide the meals, and the menus were actually included in the packet. I mean, they're very simple lunch items that maybe somewhere down the road that we would get a local organization or a local business providing the food.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Brathwaite. I hear you, and there's a lot more entailed than just having a simple menu in terms of the refrigeration. And I saw Director Thomas Smith, but Deputy City Manager McCray wants to speak to it.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Joe McRae, Deputy City Manager, Director of Parks, Recreation, Community Services. I just wanted to note really quick that this is the last year of this contract, and so we will be going out to bid after this contract, and we can certainly look into that.
Good. Alderman Rainey?
Well, it might be the last year for this contract, but I can tell you that I would doubt that, first of all, any local vendor would want to assume the obligations and responsibilities placed by any kind of food service provision that the feds do. It's incredible. It's almost impossible. And if we find a vendor who can provide that service without any problems, and I don't think we've had any problems with this vendor, have we?
We have not.
No. We ought to praise them and hope that they'll stick with us. It's a very difficult program to meet the guidelines on. So I wouldn't want to put Kurt's Cafe or anybody through it. It's really difficult. If anybody wants to come forward and try it, so be it, but I think it'll be difficult.
Just the equipment alone in terms of...
Including the summer free lunch program.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. Okay.
So,
All right, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Burst, now it's your turn.
Oh, we're,
I know, I'm a woman, I'm just switching it
You're throwing me
around.
off, Dolores, all right? I ask your approval for the Northeastern Illinois Public Safety Training Academy, also known as NIPSE, for our 2014 membership dues in the amount of $23,545.
second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions or comments? I have a question. See, I made myself a note. I see the chief here. Just let me pull it up. What, if anything, does this have to do with our agreement and relationship now with Skokie in terms of, is there a membership with that? I don't know if I'm trying to make the connections between the training and stuff that we're doing there and what happens out here.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Greg Kleiber, Fire Chief. This is separate from our agreement with
I
the
knew it was
Village of
separate.
Skokie. We've had this agreement, an ongoing relationship or agreement with NIPSTA for, I think, about 8 years now. And this is we have joint MABUS training with surrounding communities at NIPSTA twice a year in the spring and October. 3 weeks of fire department training are conducted at NIPSTA, as well as they have classroom facilities for nationally certified classes that our firefighters take on a weekly basis. Run through NIMS, as well as this Office of State Fire Marshal and other accredited organizations, and we take these classes at reduced prices. So we conduct our weekly training at the Skokie Training Tower and our own facilities in the city of Evanston, and then twice a year we conduct MABUS drills in the spring and fall, as well as classrooms and certifications that of courses that we take there on a weekly basis, and then Public Works as well. They send there's training classes for our Public Works employees as well.
Right. So the relationship is just additional enhancement of training?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, moving right along. Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A 3.3, staff is recommending that we authorize the manager to approve a contract extension for the 2014 crack ceiling contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Denler, Inc., in the amount of $70,000. The city has participated in the Municipal Partnership Initiative to collectively bid this work, and this is the first of 2 possible extensions of the contract.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any additions, questions? Alderman Rainey.
The one issue that I have nothing to do with this contract, but I am really hoping that our staff will take a look at some other ways of resurfacing or reconstructing our streets. It seems to me that the need for a crack sealing program ought not exist until like the 10th year of something that's been resurfaced or reconstructed. We have to do something about this. I've been reading about roadways in Europe. They don't have this. They don't have this problem. They don't have these kinds of potholes that we have after a year or two of paving. And I know we have salt and heavy equipment and, heavy use of our roadways, but it seems that we're always fixing things. And we pay a fortune to have them paved, our streets paved. There's got to be a better way. I mean, there've got to be communities that don't have this problem, and I would hope that we look at best practices, even if it costs more. And I've asked this before, and I don't know, I've not seen any research by our staff regarding this.
So, Director Robinson, would you like to speak to that? Oh, I'm sorry. I saw you first.
No, I was teasing that. Good evening. Suzette Robinson, the Director of Public Works. Alderman Rainey, you ask a very good question. I have also asked staff to take a look at our process. The polar vortex in particular this past winter has wreaked havoc on our roads. And as a result, what I've seen, some buckling in areas where ordinarily we wouldn't think that it would occur. We have, so we're going to be making some adjustments to our specs because right now we have the grinding resurfacing process that we use. I think the depths could be deeper in terms of the binder course that we lay in the top surface. So the engineers are actually looking at that. And then we're also looking at the possibility of concrete as an alternative for heavier used roads such as Sheridan Road, but it's much more costly, lasts a lot longer. And a lot of times when the resurfacing is done, when you just do grind and resurface versus the reconstruction, it doesn't take care of the base. So if you have a problem where the base is not stable, and then you just grind and resurface on top of it, it shows through. So we don't always catch those weak areas. We actually try to cut those out as a part of the resurfacing project, but a lot of times they're not caught. And so when they're not corrected, it just reflects through the surface and breaks up the surface sooner. So we are going to be looking at more reconstruction when we know that there's a problem with the base. And you're absolutely right, it will cost us more money to do that. But the road will last much longer as a result.
But reconstruction has nothing to do with a new method of paving or, I mean, I'll say reconstruction, but the materials we use in reconstruction are the same materials we use in reconstruction. So what I'm asking is for us to make some comparisons between the way, probably the most common way it's done in the United States in snowy areas where there's salt used, and in other areas around the world. How do they keep their roads from being destroyed like ours are? They have bad weather.
Yes, we can take a look at and do some comparisons, and we will get back to you with a report on
Is it
on what we're
concrete
able to
versus
find.
asphalt? I mean, is that the difference?
Well, sometimes it is. It depends on the area. Sometimes concrete can last. I mean, concrete definitely lasts longer. But again, it's the how you prepare the subsurface. So we don't do a lot of reconstruction. The vast majority of the work that we do are simple grind and repave, and that's some of the problems that we've observed on Church Street. Fairly newly paved road 2 years later. That was a simple grind and resurface situation, and right where the high stress area of the buses turn in is where we observed a pavement failure. So at that point, that was also an area where the base was an issue, and it was not identified as a result of just simply grinding off the surface and replacing it. And that's the vast majority of what we do for the resurfacing project. As it relates to the materials, when it's state funded projects, federally funded projects, we have to use the mix that they have identified for us to use. But when it's CIP dollars, we can explore and look at alternatives.
And we test the mix to make certain
Yes.
that the proportions are correct.
Right. We have an independent material testing company, which I believe it'll be on the next agenda. Council agenda for award. So, and they actually are on site, and they are looking, analyzing the quality, the temperature, and how the material is laid from a QA, QC perspective. So,
Alderman Burris?
Hi, thanks for sharing that information. Could you also share a little bit more about what you just said, that if we're using state dollars or federal dollars, the specific mix that we have to use? I realize that that's a state mandate, but could you explore and share with everyone the issue behind that? Because I know it's been a continual problem that we're being mandated of what we can use, and it may not be the highest quality. So that's my first question. And my second question, during the construction of roads, if there is precipitation and it's raining while they're putting the road surface down, that's going to cause air pockets and pockets in the pavement. Are our staff monitoring the contractors to make sure that they aren't doing that? 'Cause if you just watch it happening, I've seen that happen when there's precipitation, they continue to do the road surface. And obviously that's, I think something that Alderman Rennie's brought up before, and I've brought up before too, is when we're paying a lot of money for construction, not only just of roads, but of buildings, and our buildings seem to fall down or have issues a lot sooner than other entities that may be building here in Evanston, and it seems like we need to have a much better oversight of these construction people that are doing the work, because we get change orders, with 5 years later we've got things falling off the parking garage, so it continues, I think, to be an issue. So thank you.
I'm going to answer the second question first, and then Sat will answer the first question as it relates to the state materials. So we do have a resident engineer that, in addition to the material testing firm, that's assigned to every project that we do. And so they are there at they're not physically on every job site, but they're there at key points. So the laying of asphalt, the inspector would be there, on site when that occurs, and it's scheduled in such a way that somebody is there, that somebody from the city is there. And we have actually asked them to stop the shutdown. A lot of times when they order the asphalt, it comes from far away. The weather forecast changes on them, and so we have shut them down. A light drizzle tends to not be a problem, but if it goes beyond that or it's consistent, so we have shut them down as a result of that. So, okay.
Good evening. Sat Nagar, Senior Project Manager. Just to let you know, we follow the IDOT standards, and IDOT has to approve both concrete mix and asphalt mix. Both concrete and asphalt has to go through a gradation process, and any material that is being used has to be approved by the state. State has a testing lab, so they need to submit the various gradations, whether it is a cement, asphalt. So it has to be approved. Once they have the approved mix, only we use those approved mix. It is approved every year by the state, basically in February, March, earlier in the year, so that it can be used on the projects.
My question about that is, are there specific contractors, companies that are doing this? Is there a limited number of those companies that we can buy that particular mix from, or do we have much more of an option? That's what I'm getting at, is there an issue with maybe a monopoly on who we have to buy this asphalt from?
No, these are all IDOT certified qualified contractors and the material suppliers.
That's exactly what I'm asking,
Yes.
is how many of those are there suppliers? What is the number of suppliers that we're allowed to buy from, and how are those determined?
There are plenty of suppliers throughout the Chicago area. We have about 5 or 6 asphalt plants, as well as the concrete stations like the Ozinga is there, Prairie Mix in Glenview. So these are all IDOT certified, and they are all used on all the state jobs. So every year the mix has to be verified. So what we do is when a contractor is selected, we ask him to submit the mix design for both concrete and asphalt. So then we have our material testing firm, which we hire directly. So we go through a review of the design, mix design, and we get an approval. So those same people will be there when a concrete is poured. Minimum 50 cubic yard concrete is poured. We bring them on site. They make the cylinders, and they break the cylinders every 7 days and 28 days to measure the strength. Similarly with the asphalt. So we check the density of the asphalt when it is laid, whether it is a prime coat is up, the prime is applied, and then the compaction is achieved, which is 95% and above. So a lot of these are very closely monitored on a day-to-day basis, especially the concrete as well as the asphalt operations. As Suzette mentioned, I think the method and the technique, what we are doing with an 1.5 inch of level binder and an inch of surface, that is not enough. A lot of the streets in Evanston are concrete streets. Normally the way the concrete works is these concrete are laid in slabs. So when once we grind and pave, there will be a slab movement. And this movement has accelerated or increased so much because of the weather conditions. On a normal cycle, every 3 to 4 years, most of the municipalities do crack sealing. We are not the only one. Every 3 to 4 years, that is the first time the crack sealing is done. So there is a requirement to make sure any cracks that are opened are sealed and the water does not get in to create more havoc and, breaks the concrete bonding. The concrete is already has in between the joints, and the joints doesn't open up. So this would extend the life of the whole pavement itself. So we are pretty much applying the highest standards in terms of what we are doing. But in terms of the doing more and changing, going to whether it is trying to do a major reconstruction or go deeper. See, the problem with Evanston is the parkways are so narrow. So when we start grinding down, we need to change the crown. We may have to do a total recon to the parkway to match that. So there are several aspects of design. I'll be more than happy to give you the report on various streets and where we can do.
Okay.
I don't think he should be shut up. I think he's telling me things that I don't know. No, I'm not checking. Yeah, I think you're very helpful. So you think it should be deeper?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Alderman Grover?
I was going to say,
Don't
it's
go
just,
waste
it was
that.
just getting interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give them a report on that.
I mean,
We're all
on this committee,
road
we need
engineers
to know.
wannabes. So anyway, I know, Director Robinson, you were disappointed a couple years ago that you had to do crack sealing on McCormick so soon
Right.
after McCormick was completed. And I think you've explained to us that that was also an issue perhaps with the mix of the prescribed mix that we had to use for McCormick. Does it make sense at some point to share with us the cost-benefit analysis for any particular city CIP project, the concrete versus asphalt, so that we can see how it breaks down and what the lifespan of a concrete road is compared to asphalt and how the cost might compare, just to satisfy some of our apparent curiosity of that?
And yes, we actually are going to be doing that for Sheridan Road because we are torn about whether or not, especially with all the bus traffic and the
It's a high-volume roadway. And
so whether or not in the stopping and starting, that's so that may be that's actually one of the things that we've asked the consultant to consider as well.
Right. We're far afield from crack sealing, which never seems quite an appropriate phrase, but
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, crack sealing for the highway, right? Thank you very much. All right. It's been moved in second. If there are no other comments, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Alderman Grover. And we have a speaker?
No, that's for
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, Madam Chair,
ahead.
I move item A 3.4, which is a contract with Landscape Concepts Management for both rodent abatement and replacement plantings in 14 locations in our downtown area, adjacent to the city's right-of-way, with funding of $40,377 to be provided by our Washington National TIF. And I can report that, thank you, Ms. Storley, that I inquired whether or not, we had backup data from our 311 about reports of rodents, and she emailed me today, 19 reports since last January and 4 of them since this January, so.
Okay, Alderman Rainey?
Madam Chair, there was an email, I don't know if everybody got it. I'm
Today,
sure
yes.
they did, about it sounds like we're not going to be moving the rodents, but I think probably some of them will go to rodent heaven. But Optima Towers, I believe, is concerned that there's going to be an influx of rodents in their area, which they claim already to have noticed. So
Right.
if we could just, we need to pass this tonight, I believe, but we need to take a look, and I'm sure our staff has already been warned about that.
Right, and we'll make sure that Director Robinson knows that. I think that one of the things that you never think about it until when you look at what else can they go, because everything else is down is concrete. So if they're going to make beds,
Yeah.
they have to find places like that to make those beds. So
I ask-
hopefully this will slow it up.
Could I also ask why downtown Special Service District isn't involved in some of this?
Good question. I don't know.
I didn't see it in the budget.
It didn't state that.
The first project, the downtown Evanston, as it relates to Sherman Plaza, when we did Church Street, this started as a result of the project on Church Street. The landscape contractor, who is, I think this is his second year working in Evanston, was really the one that noticed and at least reported to the presence of the rodents harboring in the planters. So when we were going to redo all the planters on Church Street, that's when the question was raised, what type of system could we put in place to try to prevent them from wanting to live there. So we did a pilot program with the planters on Church Street that were mostly in the Orrington area, adjacent to some of the sidewalk cafe issues. And that seemed to work really well. And then they developed a newer system, and they took care of some planters that actually downtown Evanston paid for along Orrington. And so these planters along Sherman Plaza, where we were asked to do those as a part of the Church Street project, and just were not able to get it done with the other planters that we did that within the TIF area. This is just one element of rodent abatement. We have been working with the health department, who they also bait different areas along the downtown area. Carl has just completed a survey of the downtown area, and so this is just one, I don't want to say weapon of attack, that just sounds so. This is just one element in our plan to abate the situation completely. So
It's not cheap, and I'm
No,
just thinking
absolutely
everybody
not.
needs to chip in and help out with this.
yes.
Okay.
In addition to all of the restaurants and bars in the downtown area, they need to keep it clean.
Yes,
We
and
need to really crack down on the...
And so we're, the health department, they have done an assessment, and they, so we are going to be providing a report to council that incorporates all of the elements. Some of it is, a lot of it is education, because people are throwing food in the planters. And we're also looking at even the liners in our trash cans. So the landscape contractor looks at all of the streetscape amenities, and then the health department looks at the rodent services, as well as the dumpsters and the housekeeping of the restaurants. So
Let's keep in mind, every type 2 restaurant we pass, we approve, we require a litter and cleanup program. Everyone has that condition, or you lose your type 2. And I would imagine the amount of enforcement of that condition is slight. And I think we need to remind these folks that we go the extra mile to make them whole and, prosper. They need to clean up.
okay, we'll add that to our list of things to address the problem.
I mean, I think our staff and, the landscape people are doing a great job, but you can't overcome the trash and garbage if it keeps coming. It's just going to be a constant problem.
Right. I see no more lights. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. A3.5, approval of the contract with Christopher B. Burke Engineering for Sheridan Road Design, RFQ 14-16. Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute an agreement for engineering services for the Sheridan Road, Chicago Avenue alternate analysis in the amount of $265,099.84. It's been moved in second. Are there questions, Alderman Rainey?
One of the things I really like to look at are the comparison charts when we have bids. In this case, we did not have it. What we had was a list of, it seems to me, did I read that we had 11 bids on this? And they were pre-qualified, Suzette? Were they pre-qualified contractors? No.
No.
Anyway, all we got in terms of comparative, the bids being compared is who the company was and where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand why we didn't get the point system.
Because this is a federally funded project, we can only award based on qualifications. So we can only open the cost at the end.
The cost, I understand that. That's the last thing. But when you looked at Christopher Burke compared to Sam whatever and V3 and Stanley Consultants and all those, you chose in various categories one group over the other, or coded them differently. So that's what I wanted to see, and we don't have that here.
Okay. That's the evaluation.
I know
Table.
Christopher Burke is excellent, and we use
Right.
them a lot, and I have all the faith in the world in them, but I would like to have seen the chart, so that why was Christopher Burke better in understanding the project than Team X or something? And we didn't get that, so. And I don't need to see it now, but I think that's always been our practice.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And we did use that. We did use a criteria to determine who the top 4 firms were. And so we had a ranking system based on, and so we can quantify, we can provide that information. Absolutely, we can get that for you.
Alderman Grover?
Thank you. I think this is going to be a really interesting project for a lot of reasons. And thank you for your email earlier today about the community meetings and how to get maximum community input on this. And I want to make sure, too, that the university is included in our planning for this, because it affects so much of their operations as well, and maximize our options for improvements along Sheridan Road.
Yes, they are, the city and the university we have an advisory team. So as we work through these alternate analysis, we will be including them in the discussion, because it could potentially change the front face of Sheridan Road, which is their front door along that corridor. So.
And you said in a email today that we should be able to include this as agenda items at ward meetings as part of the public outreach.
Absolutely, we'll be.
Compound how we get public input.
Yep, we'll be making the tours to every ward meeting and citywide to talk about the project and to get community feedback on what they would like to see. So part of that alternative analysis. Again, if we have the consultant come through and go ward by ward, it could be very costly. So we will do that. The staff will take care of that and present the alternatives to the ward, and we will have the online opportunity for input as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Brathwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move item A 3.5, approval of the contract with Christopher B. Burke Engineering.
A6.
Oh, 3.6, sorry. Let's try that again. So A 3.6, approval of the contract with Steiner Electric for Arrington Lagoon lighting. Staff recommends City Council authorize the purchase of lighting material for the Arrington Lakefront Lagoon renovation project in the amount of $26,358.04.
It's been moved and second. Are there any questions, any additions? Alderman Rainey?
I have a question on behalf of Alderman Braithwaite. Why did North Shore Lighting not give us a quote? It appears as though they submitted a bid, but we don't have a quote. They're local.
Good evening, Stephanie Levine, Senior Project Manager. We did consult, we tried to obtain a quote from them. They do not rep this particular product, and so they felt they couldn't provide us a competitive quote because they couldn't get, I guess, a direct price from the manufacturer.
But wait, so they went to the trouble of doing what? Just
They
sending a letter
researched
saying,
it.
we're sorry, we're not bidding, or what?
Correct.
Really?
Yes.
And so you
yes.
still listed them?
Well, we contacted them, we spoke with them, they tried to obtain a quote, and then they indicated that they were declining, they would decline to provide a quote.
Okay. So there you go.
All right. Okay, are there any other comments? If not, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Burris?
Yes. I move approval of A 3.7 of a contract with A Lamp Concrete Contractors for 2014 water main replacement and street resurfacing, the CIP1 project, in the amount of $2,129,128.10.
It's been moved and second. I don't see any lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Alderman Rainey, but we have a speaker. So I want to do the speaker first. Rich Quinn.
You want to speak?
Oh, you don't want to speak? Oh, okay. Oh, never mind.
Okay.
We don't have a speaker.
All right, this has to do with our decision to aggregate our electrical services. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the manager to execute a master agreement to provide services to an aggregated group with a pre-qualified alternate retail electric supplier in Eris that provides the most favorable price per kilowatt hour for the length of term and renewable energy mix that the City Council determines to be the most advantageous. We do have a memo from staff regarding that choice, and I'd like to move that we approve this.
Second.
But I'd also like to say it's a new company, and I can just see the doorbells ringing, and, you know, those vendors are going to be out there.
I would hope we would do something like we did last year. Remember, Catherine, if we sent out an email or some, I don't know if you remember, it was in the e-news or what have you,
But everything here.
letting everyone know what they needed to do. Could we?
Absolutely. Good evening, Catherine Hurley, Sustainable Programs Coordinator. So Utility Director Stonebeck and I, when reviewing these, we definitely were considering all the different factors, and in the pre-qualification, we also had a similar, matrix and tables, et cetera. This company would be a new name to Evanston. However, we're proposing to sign a longer-term agreement. So rather than every year, these other flood of companies coming in when our contract gets to the end, by having a 3-year agreement, one of the other benefits is not having that sort of open door quite so frequently, and we'd be able to have more time to get it out in e-news on the website and have people really come to know this name, so that anything else but this name will be the warning sign that is an unwanted solicitor. So we're going to continue to do a lot of outreach on that.
Madam Chair, I think I need to include the name of the.
Yes.
I just made it because I didn't know the name until I read it. Anyway, the name of the aggregated group is Illinois Power Marketing Company, doing business as Homefield Energy. They're at 1500 Eastport Plaza, Collinsville, Illinois, for a 36-month term with a 100% renewable energy mix for the fixed prices of 0.07644 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 24 months for the agreement, and 0.06923 per kilowatt hour for the last 12 months of the agreement.
Okay. And
The term runs from August 2014 through July of 2017. I wanted to get that in.
all right, and it's been moved in second. Director Stonebeck wants to make a comment as well.
And I just want to clarify who the supplier was and the conditions, which Alderman Rainey picked up for me.
Okay. Great. It's been moved in second. If there are no other comments, I see no other lights. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
So what was the price yesterday?
I'm sorry.
Cheaper or more expensive yesterday?
Prices are going up. The prices that we received are higher than the indicative pricing that we received just 3 weeks ago. And I believe that they will continue to rise.
All right. Alderman Grover?
Madam Chair, I move Resolution 23R14, amending the plan of operation and governance for our electricity aggregation program.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. A6, Resolution 24-R-14, authorizing the City of Evanston to enter into an agreement with the Cook County Assessor's Office for access to a geographical information system.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there, Alderman Rainey?
Have we never done this before?
I think we do. Don't we do it all the time? I thought we did before.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Marty Lyons, Assistant City Manager. We do this periodically, so we haven't done it in the last couple of years, and apologize for one little bit of confusion in the memo. We referenced the assessor, so I did have one question where the question was, does this have anything to do with the township? And the memo was referring to the county assessor in all cases throughout the memo. So this is just a direct relationship the city has with the county, and so it's time to update our resolution.
All right, here's the reason I'm even commenting on this. If you go on the city's website, I don't know about an external user, but as an internal user, and you look up a certain address, I would say 5 times out of 10, you will find a photo of something that was from back in the day, or you will find an owner showing who probably is 3 owners ago. And I was always told when I call up anybody and complain about it, for example, Jeff Murphy's office or, community development, I'm always told, well, that's what the county gives us. We can't change it And so I say, well, look, let me tell you who the new owner is. This is the third owner since the owner's showing in our records on our GIS system currently. So I'm just wondering, are we going to update things or?
Well, I think that first and foremost, we should update, so it doesn't have to be a one-way communication. So any member of the public or any member of council
I was
that
told,
gets...
no, we can't do that.
Well, I'll then override that and say that we will at least make the attempt to reach back out to the county and say, here's our list of April's corrections to the database, and here's where we're getting our source data from. The county's had a lot of changes in the last couple of years, so I think it's worth the effort to try and update the data beyond what might happen in a triennial assessment.
Now, it's easy to find what is. I mean, there's so many options online right now. You don't have to use the city's GIS, portal. However, I can tell you 3 years ago, I wanted to know something about 415 Howard. So because I was lazy and it was just easier to look at the internal site, it showed a vacant lot. Where there's a 17-story building. And that was really the last time I paid too much attention to it. But it's important because people who don't know that there are other sources to search and look at the city's information, which is really the county's information, it's not ours, it can sometimes lead to some very bad decision-making.
And with databases changing as quickly as they have over the last 4 to 5 years, it behooves us to continue to try to update that information. We're updating the GIS system, and we hadn't had an update in more than 5 years, so that the new software is just going in right now because our GIS wasn't comparable to Google Maps. When you'd pull up Google Maps, so and now our data underneath we hope is very good, but we needed to improve our look and feel. So we've updated that software. The short answer, Alderman Rainey, is if we have corrections, we will move forward with pushing them back to the county. And I would suggest 311 as a way to track it.
Excellent. Great.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Beswick. Oh,
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 8.7, ordinance 60-0-14, amending the Minority Women in Evanston-based employer, better known as the MWEB, and local employment programs. The MWEB committee and the staff recommend consideration of the amendment to the MWEBE/LEP, revising the penalty section from 100 a day to 3% of the total project value penalty.
Second.
This is for introduction.
okay. All right. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Alderman Braithwaite, for your work on this. I understand it played out over a number of months with the
Years almost.
WME committee. And the real question here is, how do you incentivize local employment for all of the contracts that the city engages in and the bidding that we do? And there's the carrot and there's the stick. The stick is the penalty or the fee, and then the carrot would be producing local employees who are qualified and skilled to do the actual work. And I think we're working at both ends here. My question is, from your committee deliberations, did you discuss other percentage amounts that could be used as a way of, a percentage of the contract value as a penalty rather than the straight daily fee, which so many of our contractors appear to want to flaunt? 1% seems to, according to the chart that was included in the package, triple the amount of the revenue, if you want to call it that, that we would be generating from this. And I wondered if you considered seriously 1%, which already is a significant increase from the flat fee amount.
Yes, so the answer is yes, and I may ask staff to come and share. We've been looking at this for quite some time, and thank you for your comments, Alderman Grover. One of the things that I would share, again, our goal in this is not to create an additional revenue source or to penalize them. It's really to drive compliancy. And so when we met as a committee, we had staff take a real close look at like cities, other municipalities that had similar LEP, MWB programs, and figure out what type of sanctions that they had for their employers. So, Marty, do you want to give a brief little overview?
Certainly, Alderman Braithwaite. Members of the committee, Madam Chair, Marty Lyons, Assistant City Manager. The committee has been looking at this for a year, but what we gained in the last 3 to 4 months was data by having an enforcement individual to go out and start actually collecting data on what was happening with our certified payrolls, how companies were complying or not complying. And I think what drove the committee's discussion was, in looking at the percentage as opposed to other methodologies, was the fact that a large contract was potentially getting under-assessed, if you will, or the penalty wasn't the same as one that was, say, on the smaller end. So to give an example, a $2 million contract may not have felt the need to comply because the $100 per day did not have the same impact as a $300,000 contract. So by putting a percent on there, it was seen as the penalty grows with the size of the contract. And on the positive side, our goal is to drive the compliance. So the issue is we want X percent of $2 million worth of contract, or whatever the labor is for that. So that was the thought process. Very briefly, no communities in the state, really, of our size have a program like this. Chicago does. Chicago has the resources where they can say local employment and MWEB. You know, when you're that many people, that many vendors, you can do that. But a Springfield, a Peoria, any municipality with a demographic that would be consistent with ours, with the size from which to draw, they don't have this. We didn't compare ourselves with an Arlington Heights or with a Schaumburg. We know from our municipal purchasing initiative and other things that they don't have these programs. So we already knew that for a lot of our peers in the Northwest Municipal Conference. So the committee did deliberate over 3 meetings at least just on the format of the LEP penalty.
So, Alderman Grover?
I'm, I think, much more comfortable with the progressive, is like almost like a tax rate, a progressive fee that's more scaled to the amount of the contract. It's the 3% that is, it seems to be a big jump, and I guess the question is, for a contract of $2.6 million, the example is Boulder Construction, is a $26,000 penalty enough? Apparently the committee felt it was not enough. Rather, an $80,000 penalty on a contract of 2.6 would be more appropriate. But I'm wondering if at some point doesn't that become a deterrent to doing business here, when I want our Evanston residents to be employed locally, but I'd love to see our Evanston residents get employed in Skokie and Wilmette and Chicago. It's having the jobs, not necessarily where they are. And then I do want these projects to come to Evanston and not get a reputation of, you know, having just one more hurdle to jump over.
Why don't you think, Alderman Grover, though,
Yeah.
that our Marty just told us in terms of being able to compare ourselves with our neighbors, that's just not going to work. But also, they're not one of the most exciting cities to live in Illinois either. So since we're so exciting to be in,
We are the
I
number
think
one
that we
exciting.
have to continue to set, we have to set the goals high. And I'm not hung up with what the percentage is, but I think that they have to understand that we're serious. I remember a conversation, Alderman, I think this has been at least maybe 6 years ago when we first started down this road in terms of really trying to have compliance, so maybe it was even longer than that, in terms of how to go about doing this. And I think that, I want to commend the committee for really stepping up, because I don't think we've had this kind of maybe involvement from the committee before. So I think that we just need to look at it and see. I don't think we're going to run people away, not with the kind of business that we have to have done in the city.
Because our priorities are generating employment and then compliance, and then whatever fees generated, the committee discuss what to do with the penalties?
Well, and again, I don't want to get caught up
I
in
don't
the
want
penalty
either.
because I think
Yeah.
you bring up a good point. It isn't about the fees, it's driving compliance.
I mean, a secondary thing would
And
be for the
so-
committee to give us advice on what to
Right,
do with.
but I think now is a good
but-
time, I'm sorry. I don't go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I'm just thinking, for me, up to 3% seems like a big number leap, especially, just in comparison to where we were. But I think the progressive rate is a lot better than the flat penalty fee.
Sure, and for me, the big number is the 43% that are not complying.
That's
So
42.8%
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
comply,
that's a big number for me.
Only are compliant.
And if I just can take you through some of the language of the ordinance, and I'm sure you've all read it in your packets, we're not changing anything. I mean, in terms of the requirements, they're all the same. They're all the same. And I think it's important to note that the reporting requirements are still the same. They still have to report go ahead and feel free to read it. The monitoring is still the same. The difference is we want them to comply. And so one of the things that we discussed, and I really want to acknowledge the staff and the committee members that are here for the tremendous amount of work. I mean, this is something that I inherited from the former Alderman Lionel Jean Baptiste. And, Wally made a promise when, Lloyd retired that we're going to fix this thing. And since then, with the assistance of Joe McCray, Marty Lyons, Sharon Johnson, our newly hired contractor, Tammy Turner, Janella, the staff and the committee has made a tremendous amount of progress. So I just wanted to say that up front. So understand some of the efforts that we've put in place to make sure that our businesses comply. We've cleaned up our LEP list. And I also want to state that we've added Mark Tendam, Alderman Tendam, to our committee, which has been a tremendous help, who also sits on economic development. We've also had an opportunity to meet with our group, which is a very savvy group, and that's the first time in the history of this program where approximately about 35 residents who represent all of our wards were there. 98% of the residents present were all qualified card-carrying union members. They all showed up on time, and they really understand the nature of the program. What was really a surprise to me, and I don't want to get long-winded about this, that they know who all the contractors are. They know the contractors, they know who the project managers are on the jobs. Just the reality, these businesses, for whatever reason, just choose to overlook them. And I think one of the things that I really want to point out is that our compliancy officer is now going to those bid meetings and going to the post meetings. She's doing the follow-up that's needed. And one of the things we're actually asking our contractors, because it is an ordinance that's supported by federal and state laws, we're asking them to provide that job description beforehand. So not only will we have the job description, but we also have a way of communicating that to our LEP list. So all this ordinance is really saying is if after you've gone through all of those steps, you've been awarded the bid, you have been given your post-award marching orders, you've provided your job description, if you choose not to comply, that there's a penalty.
And maybe there's a way then over the next few years, as our contractors get in the habit of compliance and are more aware of our seriousness in ensuring their compliance, is revisiting then the 3% total project penalty, because it may not be necessary for those goals we want to achieve, which is local employment and compliance.
Maybe we won't have to even use it if they comply.
Right.
Yeah.
Alderman Rainey?
Right. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing?
Wouldn't it?
Well, when you bid on a job and you've been in business for a while and you're qualified to even be considered by the city of Evanston for a major job, there's absolutely no reason why you can't comply. Our conditions have not changed. The same demands are being required. The only thing that's changing is the punishment is more severe. So it's not the punishment that's going to keep people from bidding. It's the conditions, and those who bid accept the conditions they have for years. What we have found, I believe, in this city is that that's not an incentive program. The incentive program is if you're a City of Evanston contractor,
Right.
construction company, you get an advantage over others in the bidding. And we found, and I only have one example of this, but I thought it was pretty blatant, and that was when we bid out the 727 Howard building for theater construction. And we had between 20 and 30 contractors in that room for the pre-bid conference, which was extremely impressive. When and it was a very small job. It was like, $1 million job, and which is small for some of these contractors. And when they found out that there would be a 5% advantage for Evanston contractors, I believe, and some of us told us, that they dropped out because there was no way they could compete. So I don't think it's the conditions that we require that are disincentives, but sometimes the incentives that we offer that are disincentives. So I think this it's graduated. I don't think it's punitive, and if you've got a job for $2 million and you're going to have to pay $60,000 for a penalty if you screw up, hey, shame on you. Shame on you.
City Manager, do you want to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I provided a memorandum with this item expressing some concern from the staff about this proposal. I would echo the comments that Alderman Braithwaite made, that we've made a lot of progress, and we're very happy that we've been able, from a staff perspective, to help make this program a better one. We would ask, though, this evening that the committee consider perhaps introduction, and rather than having second reading at your next meeting, to give us some additional time to look at some of the issues that we're concerned about. Our concerns include the additional costs that may be passed on by contractors who may choose to, again, not participate in the program, but then just pay the penalty and then increase their bids accordingly. We'd like to have some opportunity to investigate that a little bit further to see if we can find any evidence of that in other communities before there would be final action by the council. So we would ask that the committee consider introduction of the ordinance this evening, but to come back at your meeting, which I believe is the Tuesday after Memorial Day, which would be May 27th, for final action, and give us an opportunity to provide any additional information we can compile between now and then.
Okay, Alderman Rainey?
I'd like to see an escrow created on these contracts where the contractor would have to place in escrow an approximate amount of salary to be paid to whatever minority woman, Evanston resident they had to hire, something like that. And I think that would probably eliminate the opportunity for not complying if we required an escrow, a set aside for the salary to be paid.
And Alderman Rainey, members of the committee, I think the concern is, at this point, more that qualified bidders will just choose not to participate.
There's just no way a contractor can't find a flag woman to oversee, safety.
And again, I think when you get to the higher dollar amounts, I think that's our concern. And rather than, Alderman Braithwaite and I had a number of conversations last week before this came to you this evening, we would just like some additional time to gather data.
I don't care.
Alderman Braithwaite?
We're not going to hold it up. We're just going to introduce it and wait.
Again, this is for introduction to start the conversation, which we've started, and I think we've had a very healthy debate in looking at this, and I appreciate the support that I'm hearing from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 City Council. I think we've had at least a year of meeting and discussing this. I see some of my committee members out in the audience and a couple of members from the LEP, and part of our concern is we're getting ready to go into construction season right now with a failing grade of compliancy. And so I would ask this committee that we not move it to Human Services. I really don't see the need, and that we
And I'm not asking
that we send it on to council, and if we choose to debate it more, then we debate the policy on the council floor, would be my
I have
recommendation.
one request
Yes,
before our
Alderman Rady.
next meeting, and that is I'd like a list of the last 2 or 3 years of all contractors who did not comply.
Very well, we'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That,
Okay, Alderman Rainey, is that what your light was on for?
and can I also accept that as a referral to look into that? I don't want to cloud it, but I think it's a great suggestion, and I think that's something that I would love to take back to my committee and discuss.
I don't care what you do with it, I just want
Okay.
to see the names.
Just so we can have the information.
I think we should publish,
Yeah.
make a billboard. with
Yeah.
their names on it.
All right, well, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, all right. Alderman Burse, you're on.
I move A8, ordinance 37-0-14, amending parking schedules for Howard Street and Custer Avenue, which includes 2-hour and 4-hour parking limits on Howard Street and Custer Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved in second. I don't see any lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Alderman Rainey?
Okay, ordinance 38014 is an ordinance amending residential parking schedules for Greenwood Street, Hinman Avenue to Forest Avenue.
It's been moved in second. No lights. All in favor? Any opposed? We have one item for discussion, the newspaper boxes. Director Robinson, is that you?
Good evening again. I'm Suzette Robinson, the Director of Public Works, and this will be a continuation discussion on the newspaper boxes. The first map that you have is actually the location of newspaper boxes within Evanston. As you can see, we have a large concentration of boxes in the downtown area. And how that breakdown is we have 122 downtown, and that's at 22 different locations. And that location can be just an intersection. So sometimes the intersection will have 7 or 8 spread out in various corners. And so what we are looking at, we have a total of about 223 boxes that are located at 46 locations throughout the city. We've reduced that number since 2012, and some of it has to do with just vendors electing to remove some of the streetscape projects. When we removed them, it's particularly like along Church Street, and we installed the bike racks and the lighting. There's not as much room for the stray boxes that were there before. So that has resulted in a decline. And then these are all the publications that we have observed out on the street in terms of the boxes. The locations that you see in bold are paid publications, and the rest are free. So just to give you an idea of kind of what they look like along the right-of-way, so we've just given you some examples and some more examples. And what you see down at the bottom is the kind of the front side of the corrals that we actually installed, in some, which are basically just enclosures and the boxes sit inside them. And then that's the back side of that same corral outside Burger King. And so what we had talked about with you previously is the opportunity to consolidate some of the boxes to more central locations in an effort to clear up the clutter, create a more uniform look along the street, and increase the walkability along those corridors. When I did the Davis Street presentation, the streetscape presentation, at that time we actually consolidated and recommended having only 3 or 4 boxes along that entire corridor. And And I think I have a picture later of the type of newspaper box, but just to kind of give you an idea, on Northwestern's campus, you see the black boxes are very organized. So that's really kind of the look that we were trying to achieve. So what we're proposing is consolidating to 17 locations throughout the city from the 46. And this map identifies where those locations would be within the business districts as well as downtown. Those locations are based on where we already had the boxes located previously. So what we had asked council direction on and what you had approved back at the Davis Street a year ago at the Davis Street Streetscape project was a newspaper corral similar to the one that's depicted above. So the cost of those boxes are about $1,400, and that's per 4 box unit. So on a stanchion, you'll see it has 4 boxes, and then they can be they will be organized with 2 coin operated and 2 free, or you can actually get them with all free based on whatever the needs are for the particular locations. And the picture on the right, the green picture, we're of course are recommending that they be black, but the picture on the right actually provides for a pointed rooftop as opposed to a flat. So it's $100 additional for the
For the pointed roof?
For the pointed rooftop,
and
yes.
what's the advantage of that?
Nobody can what?
Oh, okay.
No, it's the water would just wash down. But
Oh, okay. So then they'd last longer, right?
Yeah, we hope so. That's the idea.
Okay. We have another question, Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Suzette, and Mr. Farrar, there's no issue with eliminating boxes and freedom of speech like we were confronted with previously?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Grant Farrar, Corporation Counsel, we don't believe that there would be, because this relates to right-of-way issues, which is certainly a proper application of city power to regulate for safety, health, and welfare of the citizens. Also, given the voluminous history and the staff reports, abundantly support the reasonable basis for this proposal, this approach.
Can you give us any update on the clothing box issue?
That's coming to council.
That's coming back at the next council meeting.
It's really awful. It is awful.
So this is the criteria we use for placement. We tried to consolidate the boxes in close proximity to where the random boxes all appeared. We placed them near transit stops or coffee shops, which tends to be breakfast areas tended to be more popular locations for the boxes. And then we had to maintain the 6-foot clearance of walkable area. They had to be 2 feet from the curb, away from bus stops and crosswalks and the like. So with your approval, we will be coming back with a purchase recommendation at a future council meeting to consolidate. And again, the boxes would be open. Part of, within the right-of-way permit process, in order to place boxes in the right-of-way, a permit is supposed to be acquired, even though it's a non-fee permit, and that has not been followed. So we are asking that they would have to apply to put their papers in the box, and they would be just placed on display. So we would not regulate who goes in. It would be just a request. They make the request, and they would have access to that particular box in that location.
Would you put the map back up again?
Sure.
Notice that also?
It's glaring.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah. And then she used the word business districts. I'm going to pay close attention.
Okay.
Pardon me? Yes, absolutely. We can.
Yeah, because, okay, great, fantastic then. Well, more, there's none. So, and at least in my west side part. But that's,
And I think Alderman Holmes, members of the committee, what we tried to do is first start with where there are the concentrations.
oh, no, and I believe me, I understand that because that's been one of my concerns, that you cannot get a
And so why we're here as a discussion point tonight is to get exactly this kind of feedback. So what we'll do is we'll identify some additional locations, talk with you, other members of the council, and add that, and then we'll reach out to the paper vendors and encourage them to get permits for those areas. So
Fantastic.
again, that's the reason we're here this evening, is not to say this is a done deal, but really to, when we're going down, how many were there,
46.
46 locations.
So you're going down to 17 from 46.
Right, so we can certainly go to 20 or 22 without any difficulty, but certainly less than what we have currently.
Right. Alderman Rainey?
Well, how are we going to, I mean, we're supposed to have permits now. How are you going to reach out to these people, and who are you going to eliminate and not allow to be a box? And what are you going to do when you wake up some morning and 2 new raggedy boxes are out there that, aren't part of our system?
We would contact if there's a business, I'm answering the last part of your question, in terms of boxes that would show up in the right-of-way, we would contact the business and ask them to remove them within 48 hours, or we would remove it ourselves and find them. Which is consistent with the right-of-way.
And how are you going to decide who gets to have their literature in a box? In one of our boxes?
We looked at the number of boxes that will be available at the location. We looked at the maximum number of different types of papers at the intersection, and we're trying to establish boxes for the diversity of newspaper that exists in that location.
You're getting into a real iffy territory by doing that, because it's sort of like censorship. And I love it. I think we have way too many boxes and way too much junk. But I think once you start saying you can be here, you can't, then I don't. Regardless of right.
If on the corn ones where you have to pay, and that seems to be only the Sun-Times, USA Today, and the Trib, I believe. The rest of them, it's like who comes and, because they're free, right? So whoever shows up and puts their information in there. So then we're really not choosing. I mean, they're choosing themselves.
What keeps somebody from going in and taking out everybody's and putting their own in?
Well, that probably will happen. I would imagine. It happens now I know it happens like if you have them in, say if they have at Fleetwood, if you have a stack, somebody comes and puts another stack on top of it or what have you, that happens. So I would imagine that would continue to happen. Okay. This was just for discussion, so you'll be back, or what are you looking for tonight?
Yes, and then just if there are additional locations, again, our locations were based on where the boxes currently exist. We didn't look at new locations, but we will certainly consider them. So if you let us know where you would like
well,
to
I suggest you put this on your agenda when you're at my ward meeting for the May meeting.
Absolutely, I will do
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other comments? If not, is there a motion for adjournment?